came out here to enjoy some sunshine and to finish up the roll of Fuji 100 that I have in the M1 here. But what I failed to remember is that anytime there's sunshine in Portland, it's just everyone's out of the woodwork to come and enjoy it, as they should. It's a beautiful day. So if you hear the faint and distant yet distinctive boinks from the pickleball court, bikes going by, or other people enjoying the sunshine, that's kind of what it is. I do want to take a moment to talk about this camera. This is, of course, the Olympus M-1, because it is a fantastic piece of early 35mm SLR technology. You see, before the Nikon F came to the scene, the collective thought was that if you want to be a professional photographer, you have to have a rangefinder, specifically a Leica. There was also Canon rangefinders and stuff, but Leica was kind of the zeitgeist for professional rangefinder photography. Then the Nikon F came out in 1959, and people realized, oh wait, there's a professional platform for 35mm SLR photography. And then about 13 years later, Olympus was like, yes, but this time we're going to make it smaller. And they introduced the M1. This is the smallest, to that point, 35mm SLR camera. It predates the Pentax MX, meaning that this, in some way, shape, or form, is the grandfather of all small cameras, or at least small 35mm cameras. There's probably been smaller cameras. I'm not really too interested in getting into that whole debate, but I think for the intents and purposes of professional photography, something like this M1 was designed and produced to be a smaller, quieter alternative to the Nikon F. And I think that's fascinating. Now, the M1 itself didn't really have a very long run because aforementioned Leica was like, hey, we have an M1, so change your name. Olympus proceeded the next year in 1973 to release the OM1, and then subsequent models, OM2, OM3, so on and so forth. But in that beautiful span of time between 1972 and 1973, they were all called the M1. So what's the real difference here? Because I've shot with OM1s before, and I really like OM1 cameras. But there's something distinct about this. Early iteration of the OM1 and the M1 having a different advanced system. There is a lot more of a tactile feel to this one. There's a light tinging sound that I really enjoy. Beyond that, the bottom plate, as you'll notice, is void of any mounting for a motor drive because that hadn't been invented yet. Later iterations of the OM1, specifically the OM1 MD, had the mounting for the motor drive, but there were like minor refinements over the years. So this is like the very basic bare minimum model. But that being said, it still has quite a decent bit of kit on here, even though it is a small body. Top shutter speed of 1/1000th, as is all of these. Has a mirror up switch, has flash sync port switch here. The viewfinder on this is insanely bright, as they usually are. And there's something about the Olympus that I really enjoy. It's this cartoonishly big viewfinder window here. Almost sticks out past the prism. Every time I look at it, it just makes me laugh a little bit. It's like seeing a 70-inch flat screen in like a really tiny room. Beyond all of that, beyond the technical specifications, the thing I really like about the M1 is this unique place in history that it holds. It was influenced by many manufacturers, such as Nikon, to create the model. Then it was directly influenced by Leica to change the name. It subsequently went on to potentially influence Pentax in their pursuit of making smaller, more compact professional camera systems. This is probably one of the most unique and most rare of the cameras I owned. Olympus at times has been quoted as saying only 5,200 of these exist. But I think someone else did their own research and came back with something that's more around 52,000, a few decimal points over what Olympus had stated. But regardless of that, it is still incredibly unique and it's still incredibly rare. I find myself owning a lot more of the mass-produced varieties of cameras.
That was a chair. Good.
All that to be said, the M1 is not the best Olympus had to offer. I think it's a interesting footnote in the overall history of the Olympus, now OM System brand. And beyond that, it's just like fun to shoot with. I've always really enjoyed the size of Olympus cameras, and this definitely fits to that bill. But I think there's also something about the M1, like that just looks cool. And maybe it's because I've seen so many OM1s, like thousands of OM1s and OM2s, that I'm just kind of like get desensitized to it. It doesn't seem as cool. Think about, like, this is not a really good example, but it, you know, the Cybertrucks, for instance. Everyone is talking about the Cybertrucks. I remember the first time I saw one, I puked in my mouth. And then, like, obviously the 15th time I saw one, I still puked in my mouth, but it was a little less puke, you know? I still didn't like the way it looked, but I was like, you know, it's a little bit more of a common fixture at this point. I still don't like it, but, you know, it is what it is. And the OM1 and OM2 are kind of in that same vein of, like, I still like the way that they look, but there's just, like, you know, it's old news at this point. But the M1, like, just with this slight little difference here, which I know is like so simple, but that slight bit of difference, I'm like, dang, that's kind of special. Beginning the foundation of the Olympus 35mm SLR lineup is really cool. So yeah, that's pretty much it. The M1, this is like, I got it because it was like, I kind of want to do a video with it. I didn't really think much of it, and as I've been shooting with it, I'm thinking I'm just going to keep it. I think I'm going to keep it. I think it's going to be one of those cameras that I just kind of keep because I like the system. This is unique enough that I can really justify in my mind, like, well, I've got to keep it. It's the M1. But beyond that, it's like fun to shoot with. It fits a little bit of a niche where if I'm not particularly feeling like the MX, or I'm not feeling like an ME or an ME Super, but I still want like a small 35mm SLR, I'm going to pick this up. I think it looks really cool. I think it has an interesting historical component to it. I think it's also like subtle enough that it isn't going to be like flashy and ostentatious. Like, it's just a camera that I can take with me that just so happens to be unique. So the OM, I keep saying that, the OM, the Olympus M1, fantastic camera. I mean, it's an OM1, but just with a different badging here. But for that, I really like it. That also goes for the OM1. I really like that too. But I got the M1 here, so I'm going to talk about it. Anyway, that is all. I hope you enjoyed this review, this video. Thank you all for watching. Appreciate it as always. Catch you on the next one.